And what's actually interesting about this particular claimed hack is that they're talking about putting a chip on a motherboard. That's actually a pretty amateurish way to conduct a hack, because you can always manipulate the software on the chip without it being as obvious as actually physically implanting something. And so it's an odd sort of effort by the Chinese. We know they're very sophisticated.
But if you can get onto the chip, then whether it's encrypted or not, basically every other security measure doesn't matter. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, there are ways you could detect activity coming off the motherboard, right? So you can detect activity as it takes place on the motherboard. Is there weird activity, anomalous behavior taking place? You can also detect it as the traffic leaves the computer. Right. Is this computer behaving in a way that it shouldn't be? Is it doing things it shouldn't be doing because the hardware's been manipulated? So there are ways to detect these hardware exploits beyond just spot checking.
Do you ever see a day where there is some kind of truce between the U.S. and China when it comes to both intellectual property issues, but this kind of spying, or do you think this is just something we live with?
Well, look, I think that obviously both the last two presidents have been very aggressive confronting China, the Barack Obama administration towards the end, the president much more recently with very heavy tariffs, in part based on some of these exploits. And so we've gotten more aggressive. China's begun to narrow its behavior, but they're still conducting very focused efforts. So a truce, I mean, it's hard to know. They're very aggressive. They don't think about property, intellectual property, the way we do. And so if we're going to bring them into this sort of world system, we've got to convince them that intellectual property is at the core of our economy and that we're willing to take action against them if they continue to do these kind of things.